In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about guitar cables. Specifically, I want to try to answer the question, does the quality of the cable you use have an impact on your guitar's overall tone? So what we're going to do is a cable comparison. I've got two 10-foot cables here. One is a high quality cable and one is a very budget cable. We're going to plug them in and we're going to record them and we're going to see if we can actually hear the difference between these two cables. I also want to take some time and explain to you guys some of the things that I think you should look for when you're shopping for cables. So if that's of interest to you, stick around because it's coming up. Hey guys, Lucas here. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are doing really well. I have to admit, this is a topic that I haven't put a whole lot of thought into over the years. However, over that time, I've kind of collected some decent amps. I just bought myself a vintage Super Reverb not too long ago. I've got a 2-Rock XO and some hand-wired old trainers and things like that I've had over the years. And I've never really put a lot of thought into the cables that I'm using to connect all this stuff. And I figured it's about time to do so. Let me know in the comments if you're like me and you've just kind of buried your head in the sand about this topic. When shopping for cables, I think there's a number of things that you want to consider. And we'll dive a little bit more into these topics individually as we go through the video. But for now, we want to take a look at the capacitance, the shielding that's used, the signal strength that the cable can provide, the type and quality of connectors that are used, the overall build quality, and of course our budget. By looking at all this information, you'll be able to make a good decision and be able to purchase a cable that fits well within your budget, but still provides you good durability, reliability, and sound quality. So before I get into the cable comparison, let's talk about some of these things. The first thing I want to talk about is capacitance. Well, what is capacitance? Well, essentially what's happening when you take your patch cable and you plug it into your guitar and you strum a chord, your pickups are creating a small electrical signal. And that electrical signal passes from the guitar through the cable and into the front of the amp or your pedal board. And a high capacitance cable actually restricts the flow and it does affect your tone. What you'll notice if you have an inferior cable and you run it and you swap it out for a good one is you're going to hear automatically a lot of high end gets cut off. And, you know, some people might want less high end, but personally, you know, once you've lost it, you can't get it back. You know, it's one thing to walk over to your amp, turn the treble down or turn the treble down on your tone control on your guitar. But if it's gone and you need it back, you can't get it. So, you know, a high capacitance cable is your enemy when it comes to that. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to capacitance is the overall cable length. Typically, manufacturers will specify the capacitance in picofarads per foot or per meter. So you really should consider purchasing cables that are long enough for your needs. You know, in my case, I don't need a 50-foot cable. You know, in most cases, a 10 or 15-foot cable is perfectly adequate. So even though that cable may have a higher capacitance per foot, it's still going to have a lower overall capacitance than a longer cable. Okay, so we talked capacitance. Now we should talk about shielding as well, because the materials and the quality of the shielding can really help to reduce unwanted signal noise from getting into your signal chain. I had a funny experience with this. I was at band practice one day with the boys and I stomped on a pedal and I was picking up a radio station. So, you know, it was all fun and games. We had a bit of a laugh, but, you know, if that was a gig, that would have been, you know, kind of a major issue. And it's just a question of me not doing my due diligence when I was putting my pedal board together and what kind of patch cables and stuff I was using. So there's a few different types of interference that you could get. You could get radio frequency interference, electromagnetic interference. You could get crosstalk where, you know, if you got cables that are in close proximity to each other, the signals are bleeding through each other. And they can also be slightly microphonic as well, where you actually can take the cable and, you know, it's plugged into an amp, plugged into a guitar, and you move it and you'll actually physically kind of hear some sounds happening. So interference is definitely something you want to try to avoid as much as possible because it's going to introduce unwanted noise into your signal chain. And then the last thing I'd probably talk about is kind of the overall signal that you're going to get from the cable. And again, this is going to come down to the quality of the components used in the connectors, as well as, you know, the overall construction, how the cable is made. Okay, so this is our kind of budget cable here. It literally just says guitar cable on the outer shield here. If we take the plug apart and have a look, you can see it's quite a basic construction. This is quite common. It's a simple clamp design here. And this and the solder joints are all that is keeping this cable from coming apart if you were to step on it. So not particularly good in terms of the construction. And if you look closely, it almost looks like the sleeve and the tip are oxidized. That's not gold. It's a, I don't know what kind of material that is, but the conductivity of this material, I think, would be a little bit in question. And the thinness of this cable is such that it would probably introduce some unwanted noise into my signal if I was around a bunch of pedals and maybe some lights on dimmers, stage lights, things like that. And I wouldn't trust a cable like this to be very durable at all. On the other hand, we have the Planet Waves American Stage cable. This is a very high quality cable, but it's not in the price point of like Mogami and Monster cables, but really, really good quality. This features a Neutrik connector on the end here, very high quality. I think these are made in Germany. Gold tipped here, so we would expect that that's not going to oxidize. That's going to allow for good electrical signal. And we have a braided shielding in here, quite strong. You would be hard pressed to separate the plug and the sleeve from the cable. It's not going to pull apart easily if you happen to step on it. And we've got a really good quality 22 AWG copper conductor and a tinned copper braided shield. That's a lot of lingo there. But overall, what we're driving at here is that the quality of the components used to make this cable are superior to the one I just showed you. And so naturally, the cost is going to go up. All right, so the way I'm going to test this is really simple. It's not super scientific, so don't critique me too hard. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this Strat to my Helix and run that into my audio interface, and I'm going to strum a chord, and I'm going to record that in Logic. And then I'm going to switch cables, and I'm going to do it again. Tone controls and volume are full up on the guitar, and I'm not changing anything within the DAW. So what you're hearing is the exact signal of each of these two cables, and we can A/B them back and forth and listen to them and decide if there's a noticeable difference between the two cables. Do me a favor, put some headphones on or listen to this through some decent speakers. Keep in mind, this is a best case scenario because we're comparing a 10-foot cable to a 10-foot cable. If we were comparing a 10-foot cable to a 20-foot cable and both cables had the same capacitance per foot, then in theory, the 10-foot cable would be half the capacitance of the 20-foot cable, and the result may be more noticeable. But I think it's a good case study in examining the cable length that you choose to buy. Do you really need that 20-foot cable? All right, let's get to it. Okay, there you have it. You had to listen. What do you think? Let us know in the comments down below if you were able to pick it out. To let you know the way this went down, the cheapy cable was cable number 1, and the Planet Waves cable was cable number 2. I think it was pretty obvious that there was a significant loss in high end in the more inexpensive cable. For the purposes of clarity, I received no endorsements or payments to do this video on this cable. I just happened to purchase it myself, plugged it in, and noticed an immediate difference. And that got me going down the rabbit hole to learn a little bit more about this stuff. I'm by no means an expert, but hopefully the information I've shared here has been useful to you. I think there's a lot of debate online about the value of buying expensive cables or high-end cables. And I think that there's probably a point of diminishing returns, kind of a cost-benefit analysis, if you will. A point at which spending that extra bit of money isn't really going to make a difference in your overall tone or your overall enjoyment of playing guitar. At the same point, a budget cheap cable can make things really frustrating. I think where you fall in the spectrum of high-end and low-end cables is somewhat personal. It's going to be determined by your budget and your needs. But hopefully the information you got out of this video will help you to go out and make an informed decision about what's best for you. And at the end of the day, what's best for you is what really matters. So if you are going to spend the money and invest in a quality cable, there are some tips you can use on how to take care of it. I actually posted a video a long time ago on how to properly wrap and store your guitar cables. So I'll put a link to the cards up here and you can check that out too. Or maybe it's up here. One of those. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel, give the video a thumbs up, and maybe check out some merch. Thanks for watching, and until next time, remember, once you know something, nobody can take it away from you. Cheers, guys.